Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Monday! It's Monday! Monday, Monday, Monday. I've been debating on what I want to do. So, I have bad girls throughout history, and I have the affirmators, but I can't decide which one I want to do. Maybe I'll do both. I don't know. Maybe we'll start with one and see how far it goes. But, they say bad girls, but these are women who made a difference during their time. And, however you want to look at it, they were kind of the definition of girl power and what we can look at now. So I found this in a secondhand store in Alpine, California, and it's cute. I saved this because it belonged to the kid that it used to be. This was something that the kid left behind in her book. I do not understand why she got rid of this book, but for some reason she did. So, because you know what? Come on. That was a kid, and I'm definitely not a kid, but I love the idea of this. So I can't decide. I don't know. I see Muddy Twin is on now. So Hybrid Muddy, what do you think? Bad girls of throughout history or the affirmators deck? The affirmators deck will always be there. Older sibling, what do you think? Bad girls throughout history or affirmators? Ladies, I'm going to let you decide today. You tell me what we should do today. Well, that's the sign right there, Hybrid Muddy. She was just listening to Bad Girls by Donna Summer. See? No, more girl power, right? So, all right. So, there it is. She's the first one to answer. All right, let's just pick. Ooh, this is a good one. You saw me. I just opened it up. Martha Graham. So, even older siblings said bad girls. All right. It is a sign. So, Hybrid Muddy and older sibling both approve. So let's do this. I don't know. I feel like Martha Graham is just kind of exciting, but not as exciting to start with. But yeah, I kind of want to start with one that just kind of like punches you in the face, right? Martha Graham was an extraordinary dancer, though. So let's go with, here's one. Okay, here's one. Sammy's all, I love Martha Graham. I love Martha Graham too, and I think we'll save Martha Graham for another day. And I say that because I just saw another one that I think would be really, really good, and I just lost it. There it is. Dorothy Dandridge. So this is, if you don't know who Dorothy Dandridge is, she was a singer and actress of African American descent in a time when it was not cool. It's always been cool to me, but you know what I mean. And this country had some issues. But this is a sad but inspiring story. I don't know. Let's do this one because it's a bit controversial. So she loves Dorothy too. Brave women. Okay, so Dorothy Dandridge. Okay. Redefined African Americans in Hollywood. Beautiful woman too. Dorothy Dandridge, 1922 to 1965. So she was 43, or would have been 43 when she passed away. Was a Hollywood actress and singer who became the first African American to be nominated for a Best Actress Oscar. She broke into show business, performing and touring around the United States with her sister and a friend as the Dandridge sisters, before becoming a solo act, singing in clubs that she wasn't even permitted to eat in due to segregation. Refusing to be pigeonholed into supporting maid roles, Dandridge got her first break in 1953 with MGM's Bright Road. She played a teacher struggling with a problem student, and miraculously, the story didn't even revolve around race. That's a surprise. In 1954, she became a megastar in Carmen Jones, the film adaptation of the opera Carmen. playing the brazen and sexy lead role, which earned her a historic first Oscar nomination and the cover of Life magazine. Wow, it's big time. The starring lead and nomination changed America's perception of African American actresses, and the shift was permanent. Unfortunately, when this is not wrong, Hollywood is slow to evolve. So, while her films were a breakthrough, leading roles for African Americans remained few. Dandridge never found another role that matched the success of Carmen Jones, and her personal challenges took a toll. She died of an overdose at the age of 42, so she would have been 43 that year. That's sad. That is sad. Not the way you want to hear that story end at all, but let's do a lot of, let's go through a lot of supposition here. I think I used that word right. Picking out the big 50-cent words today. But yeah, let's do a lot of supposing. All right. The thing about Hollywood back in those days is they worked you. Look at Judy Garland, for instance, right? Give her uppers to keep her awake, give her downers to fall asleep. And it's not a surprise that this poor girl became a drug addict and struggled with, substance abuse. Her body was so messed up, from when she was a teenager. So, and of course, it becomes kind of a comfort zone, right? Like a lot of us will do comfort food or, whatever, that doesn't involve substances, but it's still not healthy, right? We just make bad choices because it makes us feel better and because it feels like it's comforting when really it's not. So, she broke through in 54 with her movie Carmen Jones, and she earned her historic first Oscar nomination and the cover of Life magazine. Now, in 1954, for an African-American woman to do this, that's huge. For an African-American period to do this is huge. Because as you know, the civil rights still went in right into the 60s, right? Right into the 60s. So kind of ahead of her time in a way. And yet, the way we think now, the way most of us think now, this should have never been an issue. The thing about, this is just my perspective, but to actually have to point out that an African American in 1954 earned a Best Oscar nomination and the cover of Life says a lot about how far we have not come as a human race, at least in this country. And I'm sure in other countries too, but definitely in this country, right? This is 90 years after the Civil War ended to free the slaves, and yet still 90 years later, here she is fighting for, her piece of the pie. And all these other people, who aren't as well known as her, fighting for their piece of the pie. 70 years later, we're all still struggling with this. Seriously, especially now. Deep breath. Right, need to compose myself. No soapbox time here, but I actually think it was wise to start with this one. I did save the page on Martha Graham, so we will definitely do Martha Graham. Oh my God, it's so fun. Okay, just as a side note, so if you've ever seen The Birdcage with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane, I just had the whole Martha Graham running through my head. Anyways, if you know, you know. But anyways, great movie. The movie makes me laugh. Nathan Lane and Robin Williams, that is just a combo. Yes, exactly, Sammy. Who would have ever thought in 2025 we'd still be fighting this fight? For fuck's sake, right? Excuse my language, guys, but come on, seriously? This country is 249 years old, right? Next year will be 250. I think I got my math right. But, Sammy says yes, and now I have Fosse running through my head too. If you know, you know. If you don't know, go watch the movie. It's at the beginning, towards the beginning. So it's funny. It's funny. Like I said, Nathan Lane and Robin Williams on one stage. Wow, that is guaranteed laughs. Guaranteed laughs. So anyways, so let's talk about this. Okay. I agree with Sammy. You know, 70 years later, we're still fighting this fight. And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. 249 years old and we're still fighting this fight. No, wait. Yeah. 240. Yeah. 1776. Okay. My math. I swear. Ay. So anyways, well, wait. Yeah. Okay. I know. I'm overthinking this and I'm like second guessing myself and I need to stop. Okay. So almost 250 if it's not 250. All right. So 249. 249 years old is this country as of last month. And we're still fighting this fight. 160 years after the end of the Civil War, still fighting this fight. When does it stop? When do people like Dorothy Dandridge have to stop trying to prove themselves? Or have to stop having people ask, why is there a BET channel? Why isn't there? It's like, dude, every time somebody says, well, how, like, just that random person, right, that says, well, why is there a BET channel? It's like, because every other channel is WET, white entertainment. Seriously. Because these are the people who, they come up with their own movies. They have their own studios. Tyler Perry, right? Look at Tyler Perry. And why? Because they don't have someone looking over their shoulder saying, well, I don't think you're doing this right. This is not how these people act. Well, how really? You're going to tell someone how their own people act? And I don't mean that in the way it sounds, okay? Because it might sound like that. But it's like, it's me, with Hawaiians, right? When I see back in the old days where, someone who's not even Hawaiian is being cast, or someone who's not even Mexican is being cast, or someone who's not even Indian is being cast. When older sibling and I went to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences Museum, they had a whole section of how they could darken people down to make them look like they were somebody else. Even my dad said it. We were watching Charlie Chan, or he watches that sometimes when he can't sleep, right? And he's all, I don't get it. He's all, so they make a white guy look like a Chinese guy, but his son is Chinese or Asian. And I'm like, I know. But I said, that's because they could not have an Asian in a lead role. It had to be a white guy dressed as a Chinese. Why? And then we both sit there going, why? And it's like, because we know the answer, but nobody wants to say it out loud, right? It's racism. It's straight out racism. Because, someone will accept a man looking like a Chinese man and having a Chinese son who's actually Asian, but they can't accept the fact that an actual Asian should be playing this, role. There's another, Anime Wong, I believe is her name. She's also in this book. Big time Asian actress, but again, somebody who's just, marginalized because of who they are and, just what nationality they happen to be raised under. There's nothing more that I hate than when people, I'm just gonna dig on my own history here. I would come back from, I'm looking up, yes, it is Anime Wong. Okay, sorry, I just want to make sure I got that right. I'm going to go back to being Hawaiian, okay? I would come back from vacation, clearly sun-soaked. I tan well. And people would be like, well, where do you stay? On a grass shack? In a grass shack on the beach? It's like, what? What? Have you not seen pictures? There are hotels in Waikiki. There are houses, there are buildings, but that's the misconception people have, right? And sometimes the way I see like the Hawaiian Islands or South Pacific Islands portrayed in certain movies is kind of like, what? That's what I'm talking about. When people try to tell you how your own culture is supposed to act, when you live it, you experience it. It is your everyday life. Imagine if Dorothy Dandridge had been born in the era of Tyler Perry. Where would she have gone? Would she have lived longer? would, and Jordan Peele, right? He's a Hapa kid like me. Well, Hapa is usually half Asian, half Hawaiian, half Caucasian, but it's kind of extended into, basically half whatever, half white and half whatever. But yeah, but it's like, a lot of stuff, he started writing his own stuff because people were telling him, no, we can't do that. We can't do this. We can't, no, because, you just don't get it. And it's like, dude, all right. I mean, this guy, he does all this stuff, and a lot of it is, some of it was award winning already. And, then the studios are just kind of like, oh, because they're afraid to take a chance, because they're worried too much. I mean, I get it. You have to worry about a bottom line, but stop catering to the racist people in the world. Start catering to the rest of us, who just appreciate a good movie coming from a good writer who just kind of wants to stun you. I was talking to someone not that long ago about horror movies, and we were talking about how it's kind of like they're just not the same anymore because everything's about shock value now. I mean, there was suspense in the early 80s, late 70s, and, through maybe the early 90s. But I mean, you had iconic horror characters like, Leatherface and Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers. Oh, that was the 70s. That's right, Halloween. But I mean, those were suspenseful. It's like everything is so generic now. It feels that way. Oh yeah, and same, right. So I'm all, what is older sibling trying to tell me? But yeah, imagine what would have happened to Billie Holiday if she had been in the era of Tyler Perry or these, fabulous African-American filmmakers. I'm just pulling Tyler Perry out of my head because he's one of the biggest, and I love Tyler Perry. And I love Medea. Who does not love Medea? I think everybody has had a Medea in their life at some point. But I mean, seriously, I pull Tyler Perry out because, I mean, he has his own damn studio. Okay? I mean, the guy is just like, no, this is how I'm going to do it. This is how I want to make it. And if you're not going to help me, I'm going to go off on my own and you're going to be sorry. I'm sure that's not how he said it because he's a very humble and nice man just from the interviews I've seen. But that would be me. That would be me in the back of my head going, mm-hmm. That's the Capricorn in me going, Oh, Sammy, you're so funny. Preach. I promise you guys, I know it sounds like I'm preaching and I get where she's saying like testify, but no, seriously, this is all off the cuff. This is from my heart. Why can't we just let people be who they are? I mean, everyone's, a lot of people nowadays will be like, I don't understand this whole representation thing. And it's like, seriously, there's a reason. When I see a Filipino on screen, it never used to dawn on me because, I'm also half white. So it gets a little confusing sometimes. And I know that sounds dumb, but it's like, I'm half white, half Filipino, and about, 5 splashes of Hawaiian. Okay. And some Asian. I mean, from the Filipino side, obviously, that's my Asian. But, and, I have more Irish than I have Hawaiian, okay? Hello, Guinness. But my point is that I get it now. When I watch something and I see a Filipino person, I'm like, oh, they're part Filipino. Oh, look, like there's an actor out there whose mother or grandmother was from the same place my great-grandmother came from. And you're like, whoa, and they look just like me because they're a half-breed. Okay, I know. I call myself half-breed lovingly. I'm sure other people do not appreciate that, but that's my own thing for me. But I would not call someone else that. That's just me. Yeah, you know what? We should do something on Sammy Davis Jr. because older siblings said you should hear Sammy Davis Jr.'s story. So we're going to talk about that. And I think this week might be a week not just of affirmators, if we do an affirmator, but of groundbreaking people. Right? Groundbreaking people. If any of you out there have a groundbreaking story of someone, So Sammy says, now that I'm older and more aware, I am shocked when I watch old movies and TV shows and see how many white people were dressed up to take the ethnic roles. It's shocking. It really is. It really is shocking. Okay, so Sammy, you can send me some stuff on Sammy too. Sammy, send me Sammy stuff. But it is shocking. And, my dad watches a lot of Westerns. And I love Westerns. I admit, I grew up with Westerns. I grew up with horror movies. I grew up with musical. I grew up with everything. I grew up all genre. All right. And, but it's just like, I'll sit there sometimes going, really? You got a white guy playing a Mexican? Or you couldn't just go to, you couldn't just like look around LA and San Diego and find a Mexican? Not that hard. Oh, wait, that's right. We can't have that name popping up on the screen as a starring role. Unbelievable. But then people don't understand why representation is such a big thing. Because it is a big thing. When you see a Hawaiian actually representing a Hawaiian, it gets big. Okay, so right now there's I haven't watched it yet because my dad wants to watch it, and it's apparently a series, so he doesn't want to watch it until all the episodes have dropped. But there's on Apple TV, Apple Plus, there is a show called Chief of War, and it's about Hawaii. And I'm sure that Jason Momoa had a big part in it because he is part Hawaiian, like me. He's a Hapa kid, and so kudos, right? Kudos to that. But I mean that could go in a lot of ways though, right? Though, because Miss Saigon, every lead role of Miss Saigon, oh God, I can't think of her name. Oh God, sibling, help me out. I can't think of the girl's name. Have all been played by Filipinos, not a Vietnamese girl. I know. But, and I just don't know if it's because Vietnamese people don't want to audition for it or what. I mean, it might hit a little too close to home. I don't know. I don't want to judge on that, and I don't want to sound like an asshole if I tried to speak on that. So, I'm trying to pick my words very carefully because I do not want to be misconstrued at all. But representation is a big thing. And I can only imagine what someone like Dorothy Dandridge could have done for a lot of people. I mean, here's the thing. Was the substance abuse, this is where the supposition comes in, right? Was the substance abuse because of, no, not Lea Salonga. I know who Lea Salonga is. I can't remember the girl's name in the show, Miss Saigon, the lead role. I can't think of her name, the character. But yeah, Lea Salonga, Filipino singer, actress, very representing the Filipino culture. Very excited about that. I admit I was raised in the Hawaiian culture because both of my parents were born in Hawaii as well. Grew up in Hawaii, grew up around the Hawaiian culture. So despite their own nationality backgrounds, and like I said, my father is the one that carries the Hawaiian bloodline, not just because we were Kim, thank you Kim, not just because we were born in Hawaii. So like if in the United States, if you're born in Georgia, you're a Georgian. If you're born in California, you're a Californian. If you're born in Hawaii, you're a Hawaiian. However, in Hawaii, you also have bloodline Hawaiians. And that's the natives. Because you can say, well, I'm a native Hawaiian because I was born in Hawaii. Yeah, sure. Okay. And I get that because even though I was born in Hawaii, I identify as a California native because I grew up here. I've been here since I was 3 months old. But yeah, so, that being said, it's like I'm a bloodline Hawaiian and I was taught that by a Hawaiian. So anyways, side noting, I just wonder, going back to the what ifs of Dorothy Dandridge and Billie Holiday, isn't it possible, because, we sit there and people will say, oh, well, it's because she's this, that, or the other, that she's a drug addict or she blah, blah, blah. Isn't it possible that, there could be trauma in their life? I don't know. I don't know enough about them except what I've just read or the movies I've seen. But isn't it possible that the drug use also could have been because you're this talented human being, you're performing in these clubs, but you're performing in these clubs that make you use the back door, won't let you stay in their establishment, and won't even let you eat or drink in their establishment unless you were hidden somewhere else? I'm not sure how that would play on me. I'm not sure that I would dive into substance abuse, but I definitely might eat my way to death because I would need the comfort food. I would be sad, you know? Oh, yeah, that's right. Vincent Minnelli fought MGM and won, making a black musical called Cabin in the Sky in the 30s or 40s. I think it was the 40s, sibling, like the early 40s, I think. That was a good movie. Older sibling made me watch it, but that was a really good movie. And I don't know, did it do well? I think it did well, but yeah, Vincent Minnelli, and that would be Liza Minnelli's father. And just in case you're unaware, he did Meet Me in St. Louis, one of my favorites. Meet Me in St. Louis, or St. Louis, and my other favorite musical, which was not Vincent Minnelli, is Singing in the Rain. And of course, I grew up with The Sound of Music. Who did not grow up with The Sound of Music? But anyways, and I think my parents first watched that simply based, no, never mind, because by the time they were in Europe, The Sound of Music had already been made. But yeah, anyways, ties. Yes, 1943. Thank you, Sammy. So Sammy says that movie is fantastic. It was 1943. Watch it every time it comes on. So does older sibling. So, Sammy and older sibling are clearly share a brain cell. They are two peas in a pod. But I mean, let's just suppose, what if that's where the drug use came from? Having to cope with so much racism while trying so hard to push yourself to be that person that breaks through. I mean, look what it says right here, right? That, the starring lead in Nomination changed America's perception of African American actresses, and the shift was permanent. Unfortunately, Hollywood is slow to evolve, so while her films were a breakthrough, leading roles for African Americans remained few. And if they did get it, it was usually a maid or a nanny or something along those lines, right? I mean, look at, oh God, what's her, was it Butterfly McQueen? Was that her name from Gone with the Wind? And I mean, now here's the thing. Back then, supporting people got different awards, but still, I mean, different Oscars than the lead. It wasn't like nowadays where everybody gets the same statue. But the point is that, she was still marginalized. So again, Hollywood, and it's not just Hollywood that is slow to evolve. I'll tell you why Hollywood is, in my personal opinion, I will tell you why Hollywood is slow to evolve. Because the world is slow to evolve. Hollywood is about making money. They want to put out good entertainment. They want to put out something that people are going to go and see. They're going to put out something that is going to make them money, because Hollywood, even if it is the entertainment factory, it is also them trying to make money. So, I mean, it's about making money. And what are they going to cater to? They're going to cater to people and what they think they want. So it's not necessarily that Hollywood may be slow to evolve. Now, I'm not defending Hollywood. I'm just making a point, right? If you were running a business, you were going to cater to those that you think are going to spend money. And if you have like a ton of racists out there who are not going to go see a leading actress who's, African American, or a male who is African American, or a Mexican, or Chinese, then you're going to think, well, I have to put them in a supporting role because I want to make money. And yeah, just as Sibling says, it's a business. So we can't really say that Hollywood is slow to evolve. The world, this country, parts of this country are slow to evolve. I mean, there were episodes of TV shows that were banned in the South because people were like, I don't think so. I do not think so. I will not watch that. I will not tolerate that. I mean, I would love to know the amount of episodes that All in the Family were not allowed to air in the South. And I know there's a few because we watched a documentary on it. I just can't remember how many. And I can't remember which ones. But yeah, I mean, another person that fought was Frank Sinatra for Sammy Davis Jr. Don't mess with Frank. Don't mess with old Blue Eyes. But yeah, I think that's just the question. I mean, we started out with Dorothy Dandridge, but I think we kind of evolved into a bigger conversation. And the saddest part is 2025. Why are we still having this conversation? Makes you wonder, right? Makes you wonder. When I was a kid, I had experienced racism from all different angles. And I mean, seriously, from all different angles. I'm not going to pinpoint, I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to name cultures or anything, but I had it from all around. Because if you look at me, nobody really knows where to place me, especially when I tan. When I'm a little whiter, it's still hard to place me because I have dark hair. Well, I color it now, but I mean, I don't really care who knows that. But I had dark hair when I was younger, and it did get lighter after a while. But you still could not. Oh yeah, there you go. They cut the kissing scene in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner in the South. So that was a movie where with Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn and Sidney Poitier, and Sidney Poitier is the husband or fiance, I don't know, of the daughter, and the daughter is obviously white, and it's kind of like we're open and accepting. But that was an interesting perspective because it was both sides. It was both sets of parents. Like the moms were like, okay, whatever. The dads were like, I don't know, why are the the overthinking dads. But yeah, that was good. Come on, it's Sidney Poitier. The fiance. All right, they were getting married. They were leaving that night to go to Africa, I believe, where he was going to be a doctor and see a doctor, right? And how many shows have we seen, right? You know what? I'm going to throw this one out there because it hit my noggin really hard. Look at Outlander. Okay, so when Claire's in the modern world and she goes to school, she becomes friends with Joe. I think it's Joe. And her and Joe are in, I think it was Harvard Medical School. And of course, her and Joe, she's a woman, he's a black man. And everybody else is like, nope. But they became very successful in their fields. She became a surgeon. I think he was a surgeon also. But the point is that how many people go in, I don't want him operating, I don't want her operating on me. If they're going to save your life, shut the fuck up. Okay? I don't care who operates on me as long as you save my life and as long as you are credible. Okay? If you have the credentials to save my life, please do it. I don't care. And maybe it's a unique perspective for me because I am a half-breed. Because I am walking this life. I mean, I had a man come up to me when I was 14 years old. I was the safety patrol captain, humble brag. And he was drunk or high, one of the two. And, and you could tell that he was a homeless person just by all the stuff he was carrying, a little bit disheveled. But it was, in a way, it's not funny or amusing. But when I think back on it, it kind of is because the look on his face, because I remember that moment like it was yesterday. But this man crosses the street against the red light and, just starts yelling at me. And one of my friends who was also on safety patrol that day, he ran all the way across the street to make sure I was okay. And I sent him up to the office to get, help. But I had a duty to protect the kids that were coming down. But fortunately, I think they were pretty much gone for the day. But he just sat there and called me every name in the book. I got the N-word. He called me derogatory names for Mexicans, for Chinese people. And then at the end, this is the part that I kind of find amusing now, is he just looks so bewildered. And all he just saw, whatever the fuck you are. Get out of our country. And I just stood there. And I'm like, I was born in this country. I was born in Hawaii. It's like, yeah, I am a straight up American, pal. And I think when I opened my mouth to just say, well, I didn't say it like that. I just said, well, I am an American. I think he was surprised. But at the same time, then he just kind of waved me off, told me to F off, and then walked away and headed down the street. And by the time there was a long walk from the corner to the front office. So, by the time the principal got there, the guy was halfway past the school. But that was the first time I'd ever experienced anything like that. And, but yeah, I have gotten it from everybody, from every culture. Not Hawaiian enough, not Asian enough, not white enough. I've had other people comment on me being white. I've had other people yell at me for not speaking a specific language because they thought I was that culture. And it's just an interesting perspective to have, you know, and over time I've grown to not really worry about it. I've just kind of accepted it, but not really accepted it to the point where I think it's okay. I'll just tell them, like, why are you yelling at me? What is your issue? Why are you making these kind of comments? And, you know, oh, and here's a good story. Okay, so here's a good story. This is how some people in the world evolve. So older sibling is the daughter of jazz musicians. Her parents had a bunch of groups, the most notably the Merrimacs that they played with. But yeah, they were traveling jazz musicians. I mean, just as kind of I don't know, just as kind of a background for her, when her parents were on stage, older sibling was babysat by the likes of Sid Charisse, Tony Martin, was that his name? Ella Fitzgerald. Come on, seriously? Who does not want to be cradled by Ella Fitzgerald when you're a baby? She probably sang to sibling, but I mean, you know, she was obviously a baby, and a little bit older. So I'm not sure how many of these people you remember. But we really need to sit down and talk about this, girl, because you need to write a book about your childhood. But but they were in the South, and older sibling told me this story. This is one of my favorite stories. They were in the South, and older sibling, being a kid, you know, blonde hair, blue-eyed kid, mom chasing her, runs to the fountain and drinks out of the black fountain. Okay, because they're in the South, obviously, and her mom goes up, and there's a black woman standing there. And, you know, I think I can only guess what's probably going through her head at this time when, you know, when Mom Barbara comes running up behind, you know, older sibling. And to me, I think the first thought in her head would be like, oh, somehow this is going to bite me in the butt. You know, but I'm just going to stand here and be quiet. Or here comes another woman probably saying, oh my God, you're going to get cooties from drinking from this fountain. What happened is you need to apologize to this woman because you cut her off. It wasn't anything racist. It was just like, you know what? You need to wait your turn. Okay? Mom Barbara didn't care what fountain she drank through or drank out of. She marched with Dr. King along with Laura's father. But I told sibling, I said, you know, it's a cute story, and it's a kind of a funny story because she made her apologize to the woman. But I said, you know, this woman lives in the South. She deals with this kind of crap every day. She has a separate bathroom she has to use. She has a separate fountain she has to use. And when a little white girl comes running up and drinks out of it, first of all, that would show me that her parents aren't sitting there going, the first words that you need to learn in your, you know, when you learn to read are black and white. No, she's just like, hey, it's a water fountain. Let's go. You know, and then to have a mom come up and apologize and then make her apologize. I told her, I said, that was probably, if I were to guess correctly, that's probably something this woman remembered for the rest of her life. Because it showed hope. It showed humanity at its finest. It showed what this world can be when we stop training people how to hate. You don't have to train people to not see color. I mean, there's something beautiful in all the cultures in the world. All of them. You know, I mean, we eat Chinese food. We eat Japanese food. We do love that Southern fried chicken. And no, I'm not being, you know, racist or sarcastic. I mean, we do. Some of the best fried chicken I've ever had was in the South. But, you know, we love that comfort food that, you know, just brings us wherever. I mean, Hollywood wasn't slow to evolve. We are. And the only way that's going to change is when we stop judging everybody who's different from us. Can racism go both ways? Absolutely. But let's kind of find the etymology of that. If you live somewhere and these people treat you horribly over and over and over again, are you really going to find a way to love them? No. Should you? Probably. Because that's how we win the fight against hate. You know, we have to love harder and love stronger. Sorry, I'm distracted because this is the first time I've ever seen a mourning dove land on a tree outside. But here's the funny thing about that. A mourning dove, not mourning as in good morning, mourning as in sad. Mostly they only got that term, or they got that name because the coos are very somber. But mourning doves are a sign of hope and peace. So maybe that flew there for a reason. When we stop finding a reason to hate everybody or hate everything or be mad at everything, we can conquer the negative with love. Does that sound very flower childy? Probably. Does it sound very hippie-like? More than likely. Is it true? Absolutely. If you're a Bible person, you know. God says love one another, or Jesus said love one another. You know, my Catholic school upbringing, it's really not reflecting well. All that money my parents paid is not reflecting well. But I mean, the point is, in the Bible, love one another. Do unto others. You know, treat others like you would want to be treated. Or, which is basically do unto others is, you know. But still, at what point, and I didn't mean Bible people like that. Sorry. I know. Sorry, Sammy. I meant, you know, when you're a good Christian, you're a person that's going to look at everybody without judgment. To me, that's just a good human being. You don't have to be religious to do that. You do not have to be religious to do that. You just have to be a good person. We can't blame Hollywood totally for back then, because Hollywood is a money-making machine. They don't give a shit. Okay? Even now, they're just going to sell to what they think will sell. They're going to produce what they think will sell. And so other people will go out there and they'll create their own thing and they'll make a big thing. And like I said, look at Tyler Perry Studios, you know? So there's a lot of evolution that still needs to be done. You know, 250 years and we still haven't gotten this right. 160 years, still haven't gotten this right. 60 years, still haven't gotten this right. You think at some point we get it. And hopefully we will. The world is changing. People are resisting it. But I don't think they need to. Stop asking why there are different kind of channels for different kind of people. Because you know what? There's also Filipino channels. There's K-pop, or there's K-dramas. There's telenovelas. There's everything out there for somebody. You know, but why do we always zero in on one specific group of people? Just stop. Okay? Just stop. If the world was a better place, it wouldn't matter. But, oops, sorry. So Sammy says, the truth of the fact is, way back in the day, the movies probably would have had a lot of backlash with the ethnic actors. Sad fact, but true. So you were right. We can't really put all the blame on Hollywood. And that she's right. And, you know, I'm not saying that Hollywood isn't to blame because, you know, Hollywood probably should have taken a bigger stand. You know, I mean, they had the opportunity to do so. I mean, where Vincent Minnelli had to fight for Cabin in the Sky. You know, and here's the funny thing, you know, people will go and see, like, right, when we look at these movies where they have the sock hops and they have someone like Chuck Berry performing, and then, you know, like, or just a mixed race group of men, you know, usually men, black and white, and Mexican, if you want to go with Richie Valens, but then they had that big old rope down the middle, right? Like, okay, all you over here and all you white people over here. And then you can dance in your little corners. Why? Music is supposed to unite us. Music is supposed to bring us together. Movies bring us together. So let's just try to be better. You know, I know this was all over the page. You know, Sibling and I talk about that sometimes. It's like, yeah, it was all over the place. But you know what? Like I said at the very beginning, you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. So there is no guarantee where any show was ever going to go. We started out with talking about bad girls, right? We started out with Martha Graham, ended up on Dorothy Dandridge, and then poof, a whole, you know, what you call, oh yeah, Hairspray, that's a good one. Baltimore in the 1960s, I think it was the 50s or 60s. Was that supposed to be in the 50s or 60s? I can't remember, but that was a good show. And boy, it really kind of gets you amped up, right? The music is just like, yeah. So my point is, let's love and embrace one another. Embrace each other's cultures, embrace each other's ways, embrace each other's choices, embrace each other's, when they're good choices, embrace each other's, just our differences, because that's what makes the world go round. That's what makes the world go round. Yeah, I should have guessed it was the 60s by the hairdos and all the big hair. It's like the 60s had big hair, the 70s they went flat, and then the 80s all the big hair came back again. And in the 90s it was just the front of your head that went and now we're all flat again. But I know I have big hair, but that's not my fault. Those are just my curls. But yeah, so anyways, there's not much more I can say on this. I could talk about this all day. I'm sure if we talk about Sammy Davis Jr., that we'll get right back on this soapbox of, racism is stupid and it sucks. So, just love one another. Like I said, you don't have to train people to not see color. Because, I used to say that, I don't see color. But I also get it, because it's like, am I not seeing their culture? And I can see how some people would be offended by that. And at the same time, I can also see like, really? What is your issue? But the point is, we should just embrace everybody's culture. Everyone's different. America is a melting pot. Or at least it used to be. Sorry, that's a soapbox for another day. But yeah, this country was defined as a melting pot, and we kicked a lot of people off their own land, took over, and then just started being dumb. So I think the best way for us to move forward is just go and love. As Sammy would say, love and let love. Let music unite us. Let music bring us together. Let stories bring us together. Just stop judging things. Stop saying, well, I don't want to watch that movie because it's full of nothing but these kind of people. Understand why representation is so important to a lot of people. Imagine watching an old Charlie Chan movie and seeing a white guy play the lead character of an Asian detective and his son is Chinese, but you're like, oh, well, at least that guy's Chinese. But then at the same time, when your grandkids now, right, they're like, wait, why is that guy white? Why is there a white guy playing this guy? And then all of a sudden, maybe someone decides to remake those movies, and which I doubt, but if they did, but now you have, like people like Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Michelle Yeoh, all these Asian representatives, right? And people are starting to feel seen. You have the Filipino actors. People are starting to be seen. Japanese, Korean, all of them. African Americans, even white people, even half-breeds like me. I love when I find a half-breed. I do. Because it's like, oh yeah, look, see, we're going to run the world one day. No, I'm just being dumb. But you never know. That's right. We're here to take over. I'm kidding. Or am I? Oh my God, stop. Just sometimes my humor gets away from me and I apologize. Because it may not be funny to anyone else but me. But as long as I'm laughing, I don't care. So anyways, yeah, have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Go check out some of Dorothy Dandridge's work. Go check out some of Billie Holiday's work. Sammy, check out the Rat Pack, right? Like I said, Frank fought hard for Sammy, and Sammy did have he had a wild ride on his journey, but yeah, we need to stop judging. We need to stop acting like we're superior. Nobody is superior in this world. As Mom Barbara once told me, nobody is better than you, nobody is worse than you. You are here to do your thing. And if it's to be a racist, you just need to go away. Okay, I'm sorry. Bye. I don't care what color you are. If you're a racist, you need to go away. Because at this point, we have to learn to love. That's what's going to save us. Love is going to save us. Understanding one another is going to save us. Reminding each other that we all look the same underneath our skin. Skeletons are all the same. We all bleed red. When we remember these things, we remember that, we're all human. We're all uniquely human with our own looks, our own whatever, our own brand of being who we are. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We're also a product of our environment. So be careful what your environment is. If you're teaching hate, then, you got no place in my world. But if you're preaching love, you're welcome in. But that doesn't mean I turn you away if you were hateful. I would just sit there and try to understand why. Because I guess if you're going to love, you got to love everybody, right? That's a hard one. That is a hard one. And I think that's why we don't get very far in this world, because, love our enemies. It's hard. Because sometimes we just don't get it, right? And that doesn't make me perfect. I'm not better than anyone else. Not by any stretch of the imagination. But I do my best to be a good human, to be the person my parents raised me to be. So, and to be the person I found along the way that wants to be a good human, that just wants to, love everybody. And who sometimes can't understand why, after all this healing I've done, when I open my eyes and I see this world, it's like, boy, sometimes the rose-colored glasses were a lot better. It's pretty messed up. So anyways, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Older sibling and hybrid muddy, thanks for popping in and staying on. We'll think of what to do tomorrow. Maybe if you girls had some suggestions, we might do another bad girls excerpt, or an affirmators, maybe some Sammy Davis Jr. I don't know where we're going to go with it tomorrow. But anyways, have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public under Shelly Marie Lucas. Anybody can watch. And you can find me across the social media board under the Aloha Perspective, Shell Bell's Quest, or Shelly Marie Lucas. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much to my sisters from Other Misters for popping on. I love you both. Happy Creation Day, older sibling. Happy Creation Day, older sibling. And again, have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching.